Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience.
Hello, my friends, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Kwame Christian. I'm the founder and CEO of the American Negotiation Institute and the host of the #1 negotiation podcast in the world, Negotiate Anything. And I am very, very excited about today's video because we're doing something that I've always wanted to do. I'm calling it the Style over Substance Debate Analysis. Now, why style over substance? Because what we're going to do in this video is we're going to analyze the debate styles and the persuasive strategies and tactics that were utilized by the candidates, but not the substance of what they are saying. Because here at the American Negotiation Institute, we're all about skills building. We're not about partisanship. We're a nonpartisan organization, and I want to keep it that way. But I recognize there's a lot we can learn for us as everyday individuals and business professionals as it relates to communication through these types of events. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to analyze some of the key moments and pay attention to the tone, the strategies, the tactics, the body language, everything that went into it, so you can take some of those skills to make your difficult conversations easy. And of course, before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you can get notified when we create new videos just like this one. And if you're interested to learn more about our trainings and courses, go to AmericanNegotiationInstitute.com. Now let's get into it. And now for our first clip, we're going to analyze Vivek Ramaswamy's opening statement. Let's take a look.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think, Brett, is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American today. If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, so there's a lot to break down here. The first thing I want you to pay attention to is as soon as he started speaking, he had a massive smile on his face. I think that was really important to warm up the crowd, and especially compared to the other politicians who spoke before him, they were a little bit more reserved, a little bit more just like a traditional politician. And so he immediately stood out because of his energy, and the charisma came out with his smile. Like, even before we got into the substance of what it was that he said, I thought that was noteworthy. You can see it with his arm movements, much bigger gestures than anybody else. And that was captivating. That gets people's attention. And now let's go to the story. He is a child of immigrants. He looks different from the other people on the stage. And so very early, he not only wanted to check the box of his resume by talking about the fact that he had a successful business, but he wants to tie his narrative really close to the American dream and then check off the boxes of success, check, family, check, faith, check. And so he's checking off these boxes because he knows the audience is going to care about those things. And so he's making it clear that, hey, I might look different, but I am one of you. And I think that was a really, really strong way to start. Next, I want to talk about Nikki Haley. She did an incredible job in this debate, and she came out swinging. And I think that was really important for her because thus far, she has been almost a forgotten candidate, but she has a really great track record in terms of the resume boxes that she checks. And so I want to play this clip of where she came into the debate swinging, and then I'll share my analysis afterward.
I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, They left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
This was really interesting. So like I said, she came out swinging. I thought that was very clear, but also how she came out swinging. Everybody else was blaming the Democrats, which is standard for a debate like this. You like to blame the other party. It's an easy scapegoat. But she went the accountability route and said, hey, this is what we could do as Republicans. This is where we have failed. And then she gave a very clear 3-point plan for what she would do to address that. And then she called out people who were actually on the stage, pointed at them. Now, listen, I would not suggest pointing at people. I think that that's very aggressive. But given the context, I think she made it work in this situation. But here's the thing. If you are holding people on your team accountable, you don't want to make it seem like you are the bad guy going after them. Because, again, that could lead to some unnecessary friction within the team. What she did is she held her team accountable with data. She brought in data. And it's really hard to get that upset. Because even when she criticized Trump in that regard with data, other times when other people criticized Trump during this debate, they got booed. Ask Chris Christie. He got booed a lot. But they were silent because you couldn't fight the data. And I thought that was a really strong move. And now, I know I might get some flack on this for addressing the wardrobe choice, but I think it was a strong wardrobe choice. And here's why. Look at everybody else on the stage. It's very clear she's the only woman on stage. But besides that, everybody just copied and pasted the same Republican uniform. It is a dark colored suit, white shirt, red tie. They all had that. She's the only woman on stage. She didn't hide that fact. She said, listen, I'm going to stand out and I'm going to wear this light blue outfit. I thought that was really strong because she could have kind of hid behind a similar looking type of outfit, but she chose not to. She embraced the fact that she was different, and I thought that showed a lot of confidence. All right. Now I want to talk about Mike Pence. Mike Pence is not somebody who, politically speaking, is known as being exciting. And as the former vice president, he is having a really, really hard time breaking through. And he used a strategy that at first really, really surprised me. But then when I thought about it, it made a lot of sense. And let me show you what he did, and then I'll break it down and then talk about how you could do something similar, but with a little bit more tact. So let's watch this clip.
Balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring
Okay, first of all, I did not see that one coming. And when he dropped that line, I dropped my food. I was like, oh my gosh, he went there. I thought that was a little bit off brand because he's usually the steady hand. He doesn't really attack in that type of way. But it makes sense in this situation because Vivek Ramaswamy is the guy who keeps on soaring. He's the guy who has the most momentum here. And so in order to take a little bit of that energy, let's attack him head on. Now, let's talk about what we can do. What we can do in our everyday lives to take a little bit of this for us. Now, I want to focus in on the fact that the experience that Mike Pence has is his strength. And he wants to turn Vivek Ramaswamy's inexperience into a liability. And so that's what led to that attack. But in our everyday lives, in our negotiations, in our difficult conversations, it is rare that it will be effective to use such a direct, blunt force attack without it looking bad on you in some kind of way to the people who are watching, or definitely to the other side when it comes to building the relationship. But when Pence made that attack, a lot of times, for a lot of people in the audience, it was really off-putting. And so one of the things you can do is when you want to call out something that is beneficial to you, but not necessarily beneficial to the other side, but you don't want to do it in a way that damages the relationship, just slipping in a little joke like this that is tactful can be really powerful, because it gets the point across while still being disarming and feeling collaborative. So this is an approach that could be a lot more powerful for you in your everyday difficult conversations. All right, so the next person I want to analyze is Ron DeSantis, who, in my opinion, had a much stronger debate than I expected. There's one part of the debate that I really thought was interesting. It's really short, but I think there's a lot we can get from it. So check this one out.
Human behavior is causing climate change. Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander, so do you want to raise your hand or not? I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all...
Okay, so we don't need to get into to what he actually said. I just want to start at the beginning, because to set the stage here, they asked a question. Raise your hand if you believe this. And you can see people starting to raise their hand. And he says, no, we're not kids. We're not going to do this. I'll answer the question. And so what he did was he broke the pattern. Everybody was responding to what the authority figure, the debate moderators, said to do. Hey, everybody, raise your hand if you believe this. And people said, yes, teacher, I'll do it. But DeSantis said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not a kid. This is the answer to the question. And so that was a really strong way to respond. It showed a lot of leadership, but there are some subtleties there too, because it showed, hey, I'm the powerful person here. I'm the alpha. I can change the rules. I can break the rules when I want to, and then everybody would follow suit. And if you look, when he breaks that rule, everybody looks at him, therefore validating his position as the alpha, the leader in that moment. I thought that was something really interesting. Now, what can we do just as everyday people to incorporate something like this? We probably wouldn't do it in such a dominating type of way. Again, it needs to be a little bit more subtle. So imagine you are selling a product or a service and you have a potential client. Usually the way that it's framed is in this type of way. The power dynamic is in favor of the person who has the money. I have the money, you have the product or service. You need to tell me why your product or service is good enough for my money. And so it creates this power dynamic where it's almost like you're trying to validate yourself, justify why you're worth the money. But imagine, instead of going into the meeting saying, hi, my name's Kwame, and this is why you should choose me. I'm good enough for you. You go in and you kind of sit back and say, hey, thanks for taking the meeting. We're really selective about who we work with. So tell me a little bit more about your company. What is it that you hope to accomplish? So tell me about what made you reach out to us. And now we change that pattern. Now they are looking at you as the prize. They want to come to you, and now they're validating themselves. They're saying, hey, this is why you should choose us as somebody to work with. It is a very, very subtle nuance, but it can make a very significant impact when you think about the shift in the dynamic of the relationship. It gives you a little bit more power by changing the frame of the interaction and breaking that pattern. So if a pattern isn't working for you, a frame isn't working for you, don't be afraid to break it in order to tip the scales in your favor. All right, it is getting late, and so I'm just going to show you one last clip, and I thought it was really interesting, and it is the clip with Vice President Mike Pence talking about what happened with Trump and what Trump was asking him to do that he didn't feel comfortable with. Now, just for context, this might be shocking to you, but Trump is more popular than Mike Pence. You might not have known that, especially in this type of crowd. And so there were times in the past during this debate where he said something that was unfavorable toward President Trump, former President Trump, and the crowd let him know. He was booed a lot. But then this time, later in the debate, he said something that was not favorable to former President Trump, but the crowd had a different reaction, and I want to explain why. So let's look at that clip.
And we will make sure and extend that to him. But the American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken, he asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no right to overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Okay, so now let me break this one down. When you are against something, one of the most powerful things you can do is not come out against something, but more come out for something. So let me give an example. This is especially powerful if you hold an unpopular opinion. And so he wasn't saying, I'm against former President Trump. He didn't approach it that way. But what he said is, I am for the Constitution. And so if anybody tries to put themselves ahead of the Constitution, I'm going to choose the Constitution. And in this crowd, again, Republicans love the Constitution. It is hard for them to say, no, put Trump above the Constitution. He created this moral quandary for them in that moment where the way that he described it was really hard to hate. And again, given the context, I think that was very telling. So for you, when it comes to the difficult conversations you're having, there are going to be times where you're going to have to hold an unpopular belief, hold an unpopular perspective or opinion, but you still need to stand firm in that. So instead of saying, I'm against you, whoever it is that you're talking to, talk about what you're for. I'm for this. I can't do what you want me to do because I have something else that I'm committed to. And that just allows you to set a really firm boundary without damaging the relationship more than it needs to be damaged through the process of a difficult conversation. But speaking of conversations, let's keep this conversation going in the comments. I want to hear from you. What did you see? There were so many other things, but I promised my team, my video team, that I would keep this short. But I want to hear your thoughts, and let me know if you like this reaction video, and we'll do more for other debates coming up. Appreciate you. Thank you. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and also check out AmericanNegotiationInstitute.com if you're interested in learning more about our trainings, products, and services. Have a good one.